All right, welcome into Stadium in Maine with Big Worm and Strack. I am Jordan Strack. On the other side of the screen, that is Chris Wormley. It is episode 3. We are teaming up this year with Blue by 90. We will have new episodes coming out every Tuesday during the football season. Hope everybody is enjoying what we've put on tape so far, and we'll just keep getting better throughout this thing, Worm. And just like the Wolverines, who certainly got better this week, a nice win over Central Michigan. And that's exactly where we're going to start today. The big win over CMU. Michigan outgained the Chips 616 to 139, an all-around dominant performance. Did you have a good weekend, though, first off?
Yeah, weekend was great. Obviously, anytime the boys in Maize and Blue can get a win, it's positive. And sitting on my couch watching it, I enjoyed every bit of it.
Good. I'm glad. All right, let's talk about Bryce Underwood first off. I think that was obviously the big thing. Michigan unleashing Bryce Underwood. We had been talking about that the last couple of weeks. He was 16 to 25 passing, 235 yards. The big thing that stands out, obviously, is the 9 carries, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns. What kind of jumped off the page at you about Bryce's performance in this game?
I mean, I think as a freshman, as a first year starter, as a young kid, you're always gonna, at least for me, I'm watching how is he going to respond to the adversity that they were in last week. Was he going to come out flat? Was he going to come out nervous, jittery? What was his mindset going to be? And not just him, but the whole entire team. So when I saw him kind of come out with the swag that he had that first game, and really, like you said, unleash, it was positive to see. It was exciting to see him run the ball. I think everybody that follows the Maize and Blue wanted that to happen, and it happened, and it was great to see.
I thought there were a couple things that really stood out in the game. Jake Butt mentioned, I think this during the broadcast a couple times. We all know the fastball is unbelievable. When he's winding up and letting it rip, it's as good as anybody in the sport. I thought the couple throws, the touchdown pass to Samaj, where he kind of floats one in. There was a layered pass down the sideline. There were a couple things in the game that to me really stood out, and I thought those were 2 of the better throws in the game. But to me, it was his decision making. I mean, he did run the football, and we've all been clamoring for it. We've all been begging for Bryce to run the football. But there were only 2 designed runs in that game. Everything else was his decision making. When things are breaking down or when he sees something, obviously the 1 touchdown run is a design throw on a rollout to the right, and he just sees everything as an 18-year-old kid kind of unraveling. He makes a decision to cut back across the field, runs in for a touchdown. His decision making, I thought, was what stood out to me outside of the 1 interception where it was kind of a chuck and pray. But that's what freshmen do. Like, it's going to happen once in a while. We just hope it doesn't happen a ton. I thought his decision making was really good, and that's when he can be really dangerous.
Yeah, I think when you allow him to kind of use all the tools in his toolbox to be dominant like he was on Saturday, you see those types of decisions. And obviously he's going to make some mistakes, and that's, no quarterback's going to be perfect. And obviously that interception, I bet you he wishes he had back, and everybody on that team wishes that. But like you said, his decision making, his fastball throws to his kind of layered touch passes, I thought were really good. I thought they were on time. I thought they were the decisions that he made throughout the game, whether he was going to throw the ball or take off and run, I thought were really calculated. You never want to just run just for the sake of running because you want to, feel like you're contributing to the team. He's out there, taking and tucking the ball and running when he wants to. And it was, I thought, all of his runs, maybe 1 or 2 where he could have, where he should have ran, and he made the right decision. So yeah, I think you're right with his decision making is really, really, I would say exceptional for a young kid, for a kid who, like I talked about, you want that adversity, you want to check and see how he's going to handle that adversity. And I thought on Saturday, back at home with 110,000 screaming fans, I thought he handled it pretty well.
So there was a comment made after the game from Biff where he said they had made the decision to take the air out of the ball at Oklahoma. And they have kind of taken that into consideration, and now the training wheels are off and all that going forward. When you look back now at the Oklahoma game and you hear him say, that was the case, that the fact that they took the air out of the ball and that was all by design. Do you think A, they regret it, and B, was that the wrong decision?
You never want to have regrets in life, especially in the football
Yeah.
world. But yeah, you got to look back and be like, what were we thinking? You kind of have to, we talk about, him being unleashed or, taking the brakes off of things. And it's when you have a guy like him, when you have a player like of his caliber, you don't quite know what you have, but you have to test it out. You got to test it out against especially big opponents, especially on a road game like that where it was going to take a lot of things going well to win that football game. But when you look back, it's like for a lot of the game, it was a one possession game, and they had a lot of opportunities, I thought, to tie it up, get it closer. And when you see that, it's frustrating. When you hear a quote like that, it's frustrating, especially for a defensive guy. You're like, when I look at that quote, I don't think that's on Bryce. I think that's on the defense. Like, you don't trust us to hold up an Oklahoma offense. Obviously,
That's interesting.
they're with Mateer and that offensive coordinator. They've been together for a while and can dial up some plays. But if you would have told me 24 points is all that Oklahoma was going to score, I'd be like, Michigan won the game. And when
Yeah.
you hear a quote like that, especially as a defensive player, I would have taken offense to that. And maybe that's not what they meant, but a quote like that, taking the air out, it doesn't have anything to do with the offense, in my opinion. I would have taken that as directed towards the defense.
Interesting. All right. Let's go back to this running thing. You're a defensive guy. You've played on the defensive line your entire life. When there's a running quarterback on the other side, what kind of pressure is that adding to you as a defender?
I mean, it starts in game planning from, usually start game planning Monday and Tuesday of that week. And you have to account for another runner, an extra runner, an extra blocker too, because now the running back can block for the quarterback. Even if you don't plan on using, running the ball a bunch with your quarterback, whether it's, I've talked about Lamar Jackson a bunch. I know playing against him and game planning against him and playing with him, that it adds that level of not worry, but you have to practice it in scout team. You have to practice it against the scout team all week. It takes away, or it can take away from what that team's really going to do throughout that week and throughout the game. So it adds a layer of game planning. It adds a layer of X's and O's and scheming, and who has the quarterback and who takes the quarterback, who takes the dive, who takes the read. All those things play into it that you have to practice throughout the week. So it just adds another layer of game planning and scheming. And I mean, I remember, playing against Lamar. It's you wake up, you think about it. You're in meetings, you're thinking about it. So it's on your mind all week, and it's a pain in the ass, I would say, to scheme up and game plan against.
Yeah, that's exactly. I obviously am not a defensive lineman, but yeah, it feels like that's exactly. It's a pain in the ass to have to try to prepare for. All right, let's talk about the interception because, and I don't think we'd be talking about it if it wasn't one of those like, wait, what in the world was he thinking? Are are those times where you just kind of, you know, you chalk it up to a freshman being a freshman and thinking that he's invincible sometimes, and maybe those are some reality checks that are good for him?
Yeah, I would say a reality check. I mean, it was quadruple coverage. When you look at it, it's like, okay, there was one blue jersey 50 yards downfield with five guys, five white jerseys. It's like, okay, that's not what you want. But also, it's like, you got to take chances. You got to, throw it up to a player you trust and see if they can make a play, because it could turn into something really positive. It was more or less a punt for the offense on that drive, but you want to limit those kind of throw it up, Hail Mary type plays, especially when you don't really need to, as they won by 60 points. So it wasn't like they were trying to get back into a game, or I mean, I would have liked to see that maybe last week against the Sooners. Let's see if we can get a play going and throw the ball downfield and have one of our better players make a play. But you want to limit those mistakes and those kind of. I said I chalked it up to him just being a freshman, like that. Those are freshman mistakes. He's going to learn from it, and as he progresses throughout, not only this season, but for the rest of his career, you hope those are at a limit.
I I am much more appreciative that that's on film against Central Michigan in a game where they go blow them out, and he has a chance to go back and look at it and say, "All right, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that." All right, let's move on here. So Biff as the interim coach. I mean, the guy with the microphone is unbelievable. He has, I mean, like there's definitely like some Harbaugh isms, or type responses from him. Right after the game, he called Bryce Batman. Said that he had a Labrador Retriever that could coach the guy. What what have you thought of Biff as the interview?
Yeah, I mean he's great for clips. He's great for those kind of one-liners.
Yeah,
But Biff is a maybe one of the most well-rounded guys I've ever met. I think he came to the program the first time, either my junior or senior year. And I've known Biff for a while. His son Henry played with me for 4 years at Michigan, so I knew him kind of just as one of the the dads of one of my teammates. But when you dive a little deeper into what Biff is really about, he's one of a kind. Obviously, he's really good at coaching football. He's really good at making a lot of money in his kind of his past career as I think he was a hedge fund manager. And then I got to spend some time with him in Baltimore as well. He went back after after being with Michigan and was coaching at St. Francis Academy, and got those boys to a national powerhouse. He did that before with I think the school was called Gilman, where Henry Poggi went in Baltimore. So he's a great person to be around, a great person to have in your corner. And obviously Michigan's in great hands until Sharon comes back because that guy loves ball. And I was just hoping he was going to wear his torn off V-neck cut off shirt on the sidelines, but I don't. I think being at a place like Michigan, Ward Manuel probably said, "Hey, let's put on some long sleeves and let's get through these next 2 weeks."
So I don't know if you noticed it on the broadcast. There was a shot of him on the sideline, and I think he had like a jacket on, and he starts to take the jacket off.
Yes,
I thought
yes.
that's what was coming. I thought, oh my god, he's literally
And then
going
he
to
like
have
tries
the
to put
cut
his hat
off.
back on, and like the back of the hat was like kind of wrinkled, folded underneath, and it was just. But I mean, when a guy like that, is all about ball. He doesn't care what he looks like. He doesn't care what his hat looks like or what shirt he
Yeah.
wears. He's about winning, and they took care of business on Saturday.
So I think people kind of see like Biff the caricature. What is he actually like, X's and O's wise, and as a football coach?
When I was with him the first year or two or whatever, he was more of just like Harbaugh's kind of confidant, I would say,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
wasn't really about the X's and O's. But when you look at what he does with each place he's been at, he produces. I think Charlotte, he
yeah,
got a bad rap. Just that program was not.
yeah.
I don't think too many people would be able to succeed there. But wherever he goes, he touches gold, and he not only is about the X's and O's, but he's about uh, improving the young man to continue on way after football, life after football. He's shelving out his own money. He's putting in resources to programs that needed a lot, like St. Francis when he was there for a few years back in Baltimore. But he's about developing the man, not just about football, but for life and continuing to have success life after football. It's really cool to be a small part of it.
Yeah, now he's going to get one more week as the Michigan head coach before Sharon comes back. All right, let's go to the defense because I thought the defense was outstanding. I get it, it's Central Michigan, like whatever. But the big change was Jayshon Barham as an edge rusher. What was your impression? It looks impressive. I mean, it looks like he's a guy that is built to be an edge rusher and could be an NFL guy. He has he passes the eye test, obviously. What did you think of him as an edge rusher?
I thought he looked really natural. When I saw him, I think it might have been the first play of the game. He had the sack, and then he had a sack a little later on in the game, and I was like, okay, that is kind of like Micah Parsons. I don't want to, compare him too much to Micah Parsons, but Micah Parsons back at Penn State was playing inside linebacker and then would put his hand in the dirt and go rush the passer. And you see the type of career he's having now. He's making $47 million a year as a premier edge rusher. And I think if Barham continues to progress in the pass rush, we could see a similar trajectory for him. Also, little side note for all those people that were hating on Wink, we saw him move Barham to the edge. I said it from the first episode. As the weeks go on, Wink's going to find places to put his players to be the best version of themselves and for them to succeed. And I think that was, the first of many successes that we're going to see of players not just fitting into one role and being an inside linebacker like Barham. Now we're going to see him on the edge, and we're going to see him have a lot of success. And I'm chalking that one up to me. I'll take credit for that. Even though I haven't talked to Week, haven't talked to Barham, nobody, but for all the Twitter people out there, I'm taking credit for that.
Is Wink sliding you checks or something? Like, is he? What's the deal? Every week you have to. All right, yeah, we'll keep it quiet.
I wish.
All right.
I wish. No, Wink spends all his money on golf. So
okay. No, I just think that the move to put Barham there, I think it also is aided by the fact that you've got some depth at linebacker. You've got guys that can step in there and play. I mean, Jimmy Rolder, Cole Sullivan, obviously Hausman. I think Troy Bowles looks like he's going to be an absolute stud. Obviously, he's got the pedigree, but he looks like a freak. When he got in there and had some free runs at the end of that game, he looks like a guy that can play. I think because you've got some depth at linebacker, you can do some creative things now. And even with Barham, like if you need him to drop in coverage from the D line because you're disguising something, like there's a lot of possibilities, it feels like, when you move him up there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when the more players you have that can contribute at a high level, like linebacker room has, and Wink is a former linebackers coach, so he understands that position really well. You can do a lot of different things. You can move players around and put them in the best position to win. But yeah, I think the linebacker room is going to have success for the foreseeable future, next 3, 4, 5 years, because of the talent that they have. But yeah, when you have a guy like Barham who can do a little bit of everything, and then you see, okay, these younger guys can come in and produce at a high level as well. It's really exciting. Maybe you can have 3, 4 linebackers out there, especially when it comes to some of these these teams in the Big Ten that like to run the football. It's going to be interesting to see how they use those 4 or 5 linebackers moving forward.
For sure. Obviously, let's touch on the injury issues right now. It feels like, the injury report came out before the game, and it felt like the entire roster was on the injury report in one way or another. Losing Gio El-Hadi, I think, is a big deal. It sounds like he's going to be out again this week, and it might be a couple-week thing for him. I thought Jake Guarnera stepped in, was really good the other day at guard. There's a couple guys, I think, that are getting some run right now that are getting shots. The injuries suck. Like, there's no doubt about that. But right now, at this point of the year, you're getting other guys are getting shots to step in and play. And, that opens up a lot of possibilities for other guys that maybe otherwise wouldn't get a look. If you're a player and a guy in front of you goes down, kind of what is your mindset?
I mean, I can speak personally from that. My best year as a professional player came after 2 guys went down with season-ending injuries, and I ended up having 7 sacks that year and 50 tackles. So I can speak personally to that. You always have to have that mentality, like it's always next man up mentality, but you also have to have the mentality of, I'm a starter, I can play, whether that's delusion or whether that's just having that mentality of, no matter what happens, I need to know the playbook. I need to know the game plan. I need to know the scheme for the week. I need to know, what is it going to take for me to step in if somebody does go down. And when it's exciting to see those guys kind of fill in and play at a high level, and it doesn't seem like there's too much of a beat loss when it comes to the left guard spot with El-Hadi being down. But also it gives you a chance to look at your players and kind of evaluate them in game and with live reps moving forward. But you never want to see a guy go down. You never want to see somebody get hurt. But any chance that you get, especially if you're a backup, to prove what you have and to make plays and be productive is huge.
Speaking of some of the backups, guys getting a chance, I don't know how close you were paying attention to the end of the game. I actually personally love those blowout type games because I loved some of these guys getting to get into the games and play that are the future and all those things. And, we had heard about Jasper Parker as a running back throughout camp, and everybody's kind of talking about, okay, this kid's going to be a stud. And then he gets in and and you see him and you're like, all right, yeah, I can see it. Like, he looks like he's going to be a good player. Troy Bowles was the other one that really stood out to me. Georgia transfer. His dad is obviously an NFL head coach. He's got the pedigree. Were there some of the young guys that got to step up? And do you remember your kind of first time that you got to get into a game when you were at Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, my first game ever playing at Michigan was against Central Michigan, and it's the first time playing again, in front of 110,000 people. All your adrenaline's pumping, you're ready to go in, and when you finally get in, it's like your mind kind of goes blank. You kind of lose train of thought, but like it's like, okay, at that point in the game, it's all basic calls. So you've run the play a million times in camp and in spring ball, so that's not really too big of a factor. But yeah, you're excited to get in there and show, if you can make a play, maybe you get a couple more snaps throughout the game. But another guy that was really impressive to me was Marsh, the receiver, I think number 4. If that connection can continue to grow over not even just this season, but the next couple of years, because he's a true freshman as well, I think that's going to be a huge plus for Bryce moving forward. But yeah, there's a lot of young guys that impressed me. A lot of young guys. I mean, even Jordan Marshall, like he had we knew kind of the player he was going to be coming off the bowl game last year. Struggled a little bit the first 2 weeks, and now it looks like he's kind of ramping things up to solidify. We knew he was going to be running back 2, but to complement Haynes in a big way, I think we saw a little bit of that on Saturday.
For sure. I think there's a lot of young guys in there that got a shot. It was good to see. That was one of those, like I kind of said at the end of last week, it was, you're playing Central Michigan. You're coming off a loss against Oklahoma. Just kind of wanted like a no bullshit game. Just go out and kick somebody's ass and don't have to deal with any of the stuff late. Just go win and make it look impressive and make everybody feel good going forward. And I felt like that's exactly what they did this week. They took care of business, and there was no question about it. You never felt worried at any point. They just went in and won, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered in my mind for last week.
Yeah, there was a lady at the gym this morning. She came up to me. She was like, "Your Wolverines, they put a beating on this on Central Michigan, and they need to have compassion, and they need to let up on the score." And I'm like, maybe if it was like my kindergarten daughter's like t-ball game, everybody gets a trophy, everybody wins, nobody gets out. But like this is essentially professional football now with NIL, and you want to, especially when there's been some doubts on A, B, and C of what was going on, the week before with Oklahoma. It's like they wanted to come out and show, like you said, no BS, no messing around. They came out, they won by 60. Yes, it was a MAC school, but I think it put people on notice that this is going to be a different looking Michigan, especially offense moving forward. But yeah, there's no compassion when it comes to at least the score. You want to be a good sportsman, you want to play fair and all that. But when it comes to the score, you're trying to run it up.
Yeah, I felt very good coming off of this week, and we'll get into Nebraska in just a little bit. But first, all right, so you and I are both Northwest Ohio guys. I think a lot of people that probably follow us on social media are Northwest Ohio guys. We've got a lot of Buckeye friends. So we're going to do a little rivalry report each week. I just added this in because I felt like it. Let's check in. We'll talk about the Buckeyes a little bit. We'll talk about Michigan State just a little bit. But before we do any of that, I don't know if people realize, or maybe it's been a little while, and maybe people forget. We go back to one of probably the most memorable play you've ever. Well, one of the most memorable
I've been
plays.
In 2 very, very poor plays. So.
It just kind of clicked with me that you were also in the Michigan State play too.
Yes. That was me.
Yeah.
I didn't drop the punt. I'm not a punter, but I was on the field.
Yeah, you were the one chasing him down at the end of that. I forgot about that. It all kind of came back. It's like I had PTSD right there. I can't imagine it for you. I'm sorry. I've always wondered how that would have changed the trajectory of kind of everything that was going on and the way that the the Harbaugh era was going, and watching, once one win happened, the way that the trajectory has changed the last few years. I always wondered. I was on the field that day covering the game. I was standing. I was on, ironically, the Michigan sideline, and I remember it. And live, I thought 100% they stopped him. And I just, and then it obviously sucked the rest of the day. But like it was one of those things I've always wondered how it would have changed the trajectory for sure. But let's check in with the Buckeyes. Obviously, they beat Ohio 37-9 the other night. They've got the bye this week, and then they go out to Washington next week. Did you catch any of the Buckeye game against Ohio on Saturday night?
No. I
good.
Try not to watch them.
The segment's going great then. That's awesome. Thank you.
No, I mean, unless I mean, it was a close game up until it wasn't a close game.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I mean, Ohio's got a good team. They just beat West Virginia, the week
they
before.
Are good. Yep.
I think they're going to compete with Toledo for the MAC championship this year. But Ohio State has so much firepower, so many weapons on both sides of the ball. I think they have two of the best players in the nation in Caleb Downs and
they do,
and that receiver. So it's
Jeremiah Smith. Yes,
Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, they're two phenomenal. Going to be top 10 picks whenever they decide to come out. But when you have a team like Ohio State who won the national championship last year, they're not only the top dogs in the Big Ten, they're the top dogs in all of college football. So that's going to be a fun game in 2 months when they come up here and play in Ann Arbor against the Wolverines. But they are looking like the team to beat still. And I would, if I was a betting man, I would put some money on them to win it all again. It's hard to go up against a team like that when you have so many weapons, so many ways to beat you, to score, to stop you on defense. The only team that has really beat Ohio State the last few years has been Michigan. So I'm looking forward to that game.
So I watch a lot of Ohio State football. I don't know if it's because I'm a glutton for punishment or because most of my family's Buckeye fans, but I obviously I pay very close attention to what they do, and they're legit. They're 100% legit. They are very good. They do have some questions, though. I think they're starting to figure some stuff out, too. They I think, figured out that they probably have a really talented running back with Bo Jackson. I think Julian Sayan's going to continue to get better. Ryan Day is as good of a quarterback developer as there is in the country. They've got at least two stud wide receivers. They probably have 3 or 4, really. They've got maybe the best tight end in Big Ten.
Wait, is this a Michigan podcast or
hold on? Chill out.
Is this a Buckeye podcast?
I'll get there. But the point is that they have all of that, and then I see the picture. Somebody posted this picture the other day of the 5 Buckeye receivers all sitting around, and then I'm like, wait a minute. I've gone down this road and I've said all of these things about Ohio State in the past, like, oh God, how do you beat them? And then they get to the Michigan game and they folded the last 4 years. So, like, yeah, I watch them and there's maybe a little hate watch. But then they get to the Michigan game and it's the same result the last few years. I don't want to say it's setting up for that again, but I feel like it could set up for that again.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like they're going to go undefeated. I think they play Penn State this year, so that'll be a huge game to watch.
I hope they do.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. But yeah, it's Michigan's the only team that can beat them in the shoe. They're in Ann Arbor at the Big House this year. Michigan's trying to make it 5 in a row against the Buckeyes, which is something that I can only dream of doing. But it's looking like they're going to be undefeated this year until they get to the last game of the year. We'll see how it happens, but yeah, anything can happen. But like I said, I think they're the team to beat this year in college football.
Yeah, and as we get down the road here on this podcast, when we get to Michigan Ohio State week, we get the Michigan State week. Hopefully, we get some cool stuff planned for those. Michigan State, by the way, survived against Youngstown State. They have to play an 11 p.m. game on Saturday. Michigan State does out at USC, 11 p.m. Eastern. That's brutal, by the way. Like, for fans in East Lansing, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because in the NFL, we would leave usually a day earlier if we were playing a West Coast team. I've only played on East Coast time teams. So anytime we would go out to Seattle, San Francisco, the LA teams, we would leave a day early. I don't know how that works in college with class and whatnot, but it's a pain to play 3-hour time difference. But Michigan State's looking like they're competing this year. They, the last few years they haven't been as competitive as I know the Spartan fans would have wanted, but they look like they got a team this year that's competing, that's playing hard, and I think they're going to shock some people this year with the final record of the year. But it's a big test. USC is ranked again. They're a top 25 team now, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Spartans play against them. Maybe watch 4 plays before I fall asleep at 11:15, but I'll catch the highlights on that one for sure.
I think that's a game that kind of tells you the trajectory of the rest of their season. And that leads me right into Michigan against Nebraska this week. Saturday, 3:30. Michigan, a 1.5-point favorite this week against the Cornhuskers. And I think it feels like the same exact thing for me. It feels like, for Michigan State going to USC, it's going to tell me kind of how the rest of their season is going to go. I feel the same way about Michigan at Nebraska. If Michigan goes into Nebraska and gets a win, I start thinking 10-2. That's just kind of like you start thinking 10-2 and 11-1 potential. If you lose at Nebraska, it feels like, okay, maybe things aren't going to go the way you hope. Nebraska's 3-0. The schedule's not good. I don't feel like they've been tested quite yet. Cincinnati was fine. Like they're not world beaters. But they haven't been tested yet. It just feels like this is a huge, huge game for Michigan to figure out where they're going forward.
Absolutely. When you have another road test, you get to play in Lincoln Memorial Stadium. I would have loved to have played there. My time at Michigan, another one of those kind of blue blood college programs. They pack 100,000 people in there. I think at their stadium, their fans are rowdy. So to be able to play at a place like that, I think is really cool. It's another test, especially for the defense with a quarterback that in Raiola, who's supposed to be, the next kind of big time quarterback over these next couple of years coming out of Nebraska. It'll be a good test for them. It'll be a good test for Bryce to kind of compete against another young kind of rising star in a quarterback. That's always kind of the game within the game that you play, especially as a quarterback. You want to outshine that quarterback on the other team. But I think their goal this week, especially the offense, is to run the ball. Not because we want to take the air out of the ball, but I was looking at some of the stats, and I think Nebraska's run defense is like 16th in the conference. I don't know how many teams are on 10, probably 16. But if they can get those 2 backs in Haynes and Marshall going early and kind of open up things, I think that'll allow Bryce to play more free, to lean on them and not have to play Superman. But because he's Batman. But it's gonna be a huge test. I'm excited for the boys to go into a hostile environment and come out with the win. I'm expecting them to win.
I think the Oklahoma game certainly did them a ton of favors for this week. I think this is your first road test. Maybe I have a couple more question marks. The fact that they were able to go play in a really tough building in Oklahoma against a good team, I think that helps so much. I think that's just a total game changer going forward. Because, if you're talking this is Bryce's first road start and all those things, I don't feel nearly as good. Now that he's checked a lot of those boxes, I actually feel pretty good about going into this week. I don't know what the pundits are saying or giving Michigan a chance or whatever, but I actually feel okay about Michigan's chances this week.
Yeah, make no mistake, this Nebraska team is not anywhere near the type of team that Oklahoma is. I think Oklahoma is surprising a lot of people, early on in this college football season. Nebraska's defense isn't anywhere near what Oklahoma's defense was, and I don't think Raiola yet is what Mateer is, in just in terms of experience and mature decision making. I think he's got a lot of talent, Raiola. I think he has a lot of potential to rise up to be a first round quarterback in a couple years. But Michigan should be able to go in there and learn from their mistakes from 2 weeks ago, build off of their successes from this past Saturday at home, and continue to kind of build the narrative or build their identity of who they're going to be moving forward. Because, like you said, there's still some questions. There's still some answers or questions that need to be answered in terms of who this team is as a whole. And a win in Nebraska, I think, would would check off a lot of those boxes and answer a lot of those questions that we still have.
The difference between going into the bye at 3-1 as opposed to 2-2 is astronomical in my mind. Like it's a huge difference. Huge difference. And in my mind, the trajectory of the season kind of can be determined in that 3.5 hours in Nebraska coming up this weekend. All right, Worm, anything else you want to get out there before we say goodbye to the folks?
I think that's it. We talked some good ball. I'm excited to watch Bryce continue to mature, continue to progress in his young journey, but it's going to take a team effort to beat the Cornhuskers, and I'm excited to watch them.
I am as well. It should be a good one. That's Saturday, 3:30. It's on CBS. All right, every Tuesday during the football season, Worm and I will be here discussing whatever the hell is going on the football field and probably a little bit of stuff that's going on off the field. We appreciate you. Of course, make sure you're keeping your eyes on all the Blue by 90 social pages for these podcasts to drop, and share these things with all your friends and let them know. We will see you back here coming up next week.
Go Blue.